In this video, we'll go over the answer to question 5 of the 2021 Chemistry HSC exam. There is quite a lot of text in this question, but effectively it's asking if you have an unknown solution of acetic acid and you titrate it against a standardized solution of dilute sodium hydroxide. If you calculate the concentration of the acetic acid following the steps listed here, how does that calculation compare to the true concentration of the acetic acid? So the options listed here are A, lower, B, higher, C, the same, or D, different but higher or lower cannot be predicted. As we'll show in this video, the answer is B, higher. So let's look at each of these steps individually. The first step the student takes is to rinse the burette with deionized water. So if we have our burette, what will happen if we rinse it out with deionized water? Well, you're going to get some leftover water droplets. Now, if you don't do anything else and then fill the burette with sodium hydroxide, what does that mean? Well, that leftover water from before now dilutes the standardized sodium hydroxide solution that you placed in. Sodium hydroxide, now slightly more dilute, is of an unknown concentration. It's definitely less concentrated though because the water has diluted it. This will mean that when you are titrating against acetic acid, you're going to need more sodium hydroxide solution in order to reach the endpoint. When doing your calculations, it'll look like you need more moles of sodium hydroxide in order to titrate the acetic acid, and therefore makes the acetic acid solution look more concentrated than it actually is. At this point, we may be tempted to lock in answer B. However, we still have to see whether the other steps do not make the acetic acid look less concentrated, implying option D to be the answer. Okay, let's move on to the pipette and conical flask. The next step states that they are rinsed with the acetic acid solution. Well, this will leave droplets of acetic acid solution in both pieces of glassware. When we move on to the next step, what effect will this have? Well, when we pipette the acetic acid solution, the pipette itself will contain a precise volume of the original concentration. We actually need those droplets in order for the solution to remain undiluted. However, the additional droplets in the conical flask increases the volume and therefore the number of moles of acetic acid. Therefore, more sodium hydroxide solution will be needed in order to titrate the acid. The final result being that once again, the acetic acid solution looks more concentrated than it actually is. So we can see that breaking down the implications of each of the steps shows us that the calculated concentration of the acetic acid will be higher than expected. So, combination of the fact that the burette was cleaned with water only, while the conical flask was cleaned with the acetic acid, leads to the calculation of the acetic acid concentration being greater than it really is, leading us to option B as the answer. Two good references on titration are a guide to titration from the Royal Australian Chemical Institute and the Titrait website. From the guide to titration, you can see that contamination dilution is one of the sources of error. So flask should only be rinsed with deionized water, pipettes and burettes should be rinsed 3 times with deionized water, and then the solution that you're going to place into them. On the Titrait website, you have a nice summary of each of the pieces of glassware used in titration, including the beaker, pipette, burette, and conical flask. And it contains a column to show you what each should be rinsed with. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.